Hello, hockey fans of all ages, shapes, and sizes. Just watching some of the last day of the NHL season, a couple of the games here, and kind of recollecting or reflecting on the Sharks season. So I wanted to talk about what did we lose at the deadline, and then obviously this is going to be a massive off season for the whole team. I have to say that I'm more partial to Misa if we get first overall. But really, no offense to the three top three picks or whatever, whoever the Sharks end up landing. It doesn't really matter for next year. It's way more down the road. And as Randy Hahn said, the most exciting last place team you'll ever see, or something like that. That's my favorite quote of his of all time, I think now. Um, and loved him and Drew all year long. Just such wealths of knowledge for the game. And I really miss Hetty as well, too. He was so great. I hope he's doing good in San Diego there. See Christy Yamaguchi, his wife, at some of the games in San Jose there. Yeah, so like this draft, with all due respect to the players, doesn't really mean a ton to the Sharks. What I really wanted to do is to dive in on some of the stats. I'm a stats geek, a math geek, a computer programmer. Obviously, I'm good at math. So that's the language that I speak. And I put together some numbers on some things that I think the Sharks could do this off season to improve their chances. So, what is my goal if I'm Mike Greer and Tom Holy and the gang in Sharks management? Is to be a bubble team, kind of like Montreal next year. I really, really think that, and I'll talk more about Dickinson and some stuff like that. I think he could be similar to like a Will Smith in because of the CHL rules. I think it'd be so foolish for the team to put him back into the OHL next year. Like he has literally nothing to work on or improve. I think him being a younger guy, as I saw in the World Juniors, he could use a little bit more hockey IQ and development from guys like Vlasic and stuff like that. Where to put the puck and develop more habits that are solid. Like a guy like Matt Schaefer. Like I said, I'm more partial to Misa, honestly, with the Sharks at first overall, just because like he tied Patrick Kane's goals, and he was with Chernyshov. There'd be instant chemistry there. And like we don't know what Schaefer's going to do, right? Like all the players, the top three, him and Martone and Misa are kind of similar, or like none of them really jumps out as like a McDavid or like a Carlson or McCarr or like one of these generational guys. Like I think to me Schaefer's a huge wild card, and that's why I would go with Misa, honestly, because you have Dickinson and Cagnoni. So I was just thinking, like, yeah, like to me, Schaefer looked more impressive from like a natural talent than Dickinson, with all due respect. I just think it's more Dickinson's more of like a robotic, smooth skating guy, where if you develop good habits with him, I think he could even have a higher ceiling physically than a Schaefer or whatever, because he's such a big specimen of a young man. So I think, yeah, the smooth skating they both have. Schaefer seemed to have a little bit more confidence and willingness to funnel pucks to the net like a Carlson. So I could see that would give him kind of that secret stuff that could be the reason that he would go first overall, is the unknown. But I'm kind of more towards the risk management side myself, and I prefer to, a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. So I think, other teams that have a lot of mature depth or whatever, or like a Boston or Pittsburgh, like they could go either way, or like a Nashville, I could see them with like Yossi, and they don't have, I don't believe, tremendous defense depth. So like I said, we have Cagnoni, who, and so this year, like, you see the development of Jack Thompson, who he would move along the line, like, incredible edge work by the end of the year, like, night and day from the start of the season from him. You have guys like Canyoni who could be a power play specialist, like maybe what a Schaefer could fit into. So, it's interesting, and like I could see a team like Chicago having, even drafting at first, grabbing Schaefer for Lev Shunov and having like another Keith Seabrook dynasty, right? You never know, but like I said, I'm more partial to Misa myself, tying Patrick Kane, who's like a first ballot Hall of Famer. Um, anyways, so yeah, I went a little bit deep into that. I wanted to talk about the deadline, and then, potentially what could be had in the off season. So made some notes here. Um, so what did the Sharks lose at the trade deadline? We lost Sturm faceoffs, Zetts goals for, Kunin, a grinder depth scoring, Walman smooth skating, mobile puck defenseman, puck mover, and Granny, who's like puck battles. He's like a pit bull out there, in puck retrievals. So those are the things that I see. What do the Sharks need to work on in the off season? So face-off draws. I'll just rhyme off my points here and then go into the details. So face-off draws, as I mentioned, goals for. How do you get goals for? You shoot more. So we need more shots. More offensive zone time and less defending in our own end. And how do you do that? You need smooth skating defenders, getting the pucks out quickly. I kind of use the term like cement, foundational cement feet guys, like Pickles or Muck, or like a Justin Braun. Those kind of guys are like really solid defenders, and you got to have them. You got to have a mix, right? And often pairing one guy with the other, like puck mover with a cement foot kind of guy, is a good way to go, because they're always that anchor or foundation back on defense. And then puck battles, double teams, and then finally just like believing in yourself and having the grit. Alex Wenberg, I was listening to the locker room cleanouts, some of the interviews there. Alex Wenberg said, we need a little bit more grit, and I'll touch on that with Zacho Stopshuck in a minute here. And maybe all the guys too, like maybe doing some MMA, some kind of fun. Obviously, you don't want to wreck your hands or whatever if you're like a goal scorer like Eki, but kudos to him for dropping the mitts and throwing a nice right hand, mind you, in that fight there. So I think for every guy's confidence, like I've done some MMA kickboxing, some boxing lessons and stuff. I had a girlfriend where her ex came and threatened me at her son's birthday party. The first day I met him, he's a fight on site. And so I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to do some MMA training now. And it was great. Like before, I'll admit, being a jock and being generally strong and a gym bro, or whatever, I'm out of shape now, and I'm working on it. I'm actually trying to get back into shape. Everybody should, post-pandemic, and be a better version of themselves. But I think you could have this arrogant cockiness as an athlete when you're the best on your team, or the best in the game, but you may not be a good fighter. Like some guys that go to the UFC, like tatted up everywhere. I'm not saying tattoos even makes you a tougher guy, but there's ways that people show their intimidation, the way that they walk. If they walk with their barrel chest forward, or their shoulders back, or like another tell is like, don't ever mess with a guy with the cauliflower ears, or a guy walking with his feet kind of like duck a little bit, duck legged. It kind of is funny, but if they walk kind of like, a rapper or whatever with the kind of the duck feet, that's a telltale sign of like MMA sometimes, is that that footwork of the, squish the bug. When you guys will learn that if you do a couple lessons or whatever. Boxing is, it's all about your core strength, and squishing the bug to turn over your cross. Or just ask Goody and Sabarin in the summer, and he'll give you some good tips. So I think from a self-confidence thing, all the players, I'm not advocating fighting. I think, I'm very much pro just play hockey and be talented. And can the Sharks get a call next year, especially home games anyways? Like, I think they were being very graceful in the final game at home, kind of like, oh, we don't want to do any big hits and run them. Like, but Edmonton was very merciless. And I thought, like, man, like Perry does a dive and, guys are kind of bumping and cross-checking and stuff. And I'm like, hey, man, like, if you guys do that, like, we're kind of giving you, like, this is a no, like a nothing burger game, and you guys are taking it pretty serious instead of playing like an all-star game and maybe not necessarily letting the Sharks score, but to get shut out in your own barn. Like, I really hope the guys kind of look at that final game and say, you know what, we need more grit, we need more fight and more belief in ourselves next year, and never get shut out in your own barn. Like, I think I commented on one of my casts a long time ago is that if you're looping pucks into the over the defender and you're like right behind the guy, you put the fear of God into him that he's just going to get plastered against the board. So I want to talk about that a little bit more too, and some of the guys that fit that kind of mucker grinder role, and hopefully they'll keep some of these guys in the off season. I know there's going to be changes. There's going to be a lot of turnover, especially on the blue line, I think. But we shall see. So, anyways, just kind of, I'm going to recap now, and then I'll go into it. So, number one, face-off draws, face-off percentage, hugely important. Goals for, more shots equals more goals, and a higher percentage, obviously, of shot percentage. But more offensive zone time, less defending, and smooth skating, all that kind of stuff. And then the belief in yourselves and the heart and the intangibles that I already talked about. I'm kind of glad to get that out of the way. Some of the UFC takedowns, I do not like that on ice, especially. You can kill a guy if do a slew foot and he falls on the ice without his helmet. I don't want anything bad to happen like that for them to stop fighting entirely, because I still think fighting has a place in the game, but guys need to disengage. And I want to say Barclay Goodrow is one of the classiest fighters out there, that, he will withhold that last punch, like the one guy, I don't even want to mention his name because it doesn't matter who it was, but like, I remember, I think I commented on this, like Eric Lindros caught Joe, Jumbo, like while he was falling and kind of caught him in the orbital bone. And that guy, like, that can mess up like a serious, offensive guy for your team. You could be out like 20, 30, 50 games, for a mega injury in a fight. So that's why they had, the enforcer role of the past, which is a very thankless job. And I love Goody, heart and soul kind of guy. So anyways, back to it here. So I want to see Celly and Smitty, even if it's with road hockey sticks and pucks, do like 1,000 face-offs against each other a day. Like, I loved the content from them competing all year long in soccer and basketball, like doing hoops and all that stuff. I love it. Huge fan of the game and the players off the ice, the personalities. I want to see them like doing, like the stick taps, like 1, 2, 3, and then go at it, like, mimic what the ref. And those guys are so competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up cross-checking each other in the summer or something like that. Just, you want to be able to fight, and those guys, for me, like I said, the goal of the team next year with this offseason is to be a bubble team like Montreal, and you need to be around like 80 to 90 points, right? So you need to almost have like 20 wins more overtime wins. We had a lot of overtime losses, so probably 20, 25 wins somewhere in between there. The Sharks need to improve on next year, and a lot of one-goal games. So we're there, but like I said, so goals for, I did a calculation here. So I was looking back at the game against the Leafs prior to the deadline, and man, like the team was like night and day different. And some of the guys in the locker room, clean out Celly, talked about it a little bit, how we want to be competitive, and we had some good games. And I think Toff mentioned it as well, how, like we were in a lot of one goal games. We just got to be a little bit better. So I took 15 shots, like, because they were like a lot of the games I watched this year, the Sharks were like doubled up in shots. And obviously, when you lost Mackenzie Blackwood, who is an incredible guy, goalie, you have the ASCII effect coming up. And I hope that he can be a bona fide number one next year. He's still very young, right? So Mackenzie Blackwood was a lot older and has been through, some things and some trauma and healing and getting better and more stretching and like I think goalies are similar to defensemen. Like the whole defensive part of the game, your kind of prime is a little bit like 3 to 4 years later, I think I've surmised in the past. And so like ASCII, I think, is like 21, 22, 23, like something like that. So like all these guys are so young, right? So 3 to 4 years, the Sharks are going to be super competitive. But if you want to make a leap, be a bubble team, maybe you don't make the playoffs, maybe you do like Montreal and you get in, then you can build and then you can acquire guys at the deadline instead of like dishing everybody, right? Or like acquire guys in the off season, like a big name that'll like turn around, like a Jumbo, like bringing Jumbo in and into San Jose. And they already had great guys like Patty and Pavs and all these guys too, I guess, or I think, and then they just keep growing the franchise and become playoff competitive. So how do you get 15 shots more per game? I think it's like 1230 or something, like, yeah, like roughly 1200 shots. Um, so how do you do that? How do you get 1200 more shots a game? And being strictly analytical, it's like, yeah, you need 6 guys with about 200 shots a year. So I did a look at Zetts, and we lost a lot of goals for with him and shots for. And so he had 141 by the deadline, and he got I think close to 40 more, so about 180. That's not amazing, but it's still good, right? You lost a lot of shots for. So if you notice after the deadline, the Sharks are just getting filled in, like they're always in the they're always defending, they're not getting many shots, right? So guys who get shots are good at like puck possession, usually holding on to the puck, winning puck battles. Like I said, uh, Granny was like he's like a pit bull out there and puck retrievals and stuff, grabbing pucks back. And you need those kind of guys. Like Celly does that. He has this subtle way to like kind of push a guy last second, like not dangerously. He never does it if the guy's like in that 6 foot range to the boards. But if you notice with him, he kind of like he closes distance so fast, and then he'll give like a little push or a cross check. It's like a balance thing where he's like, it's brilliant at his age of like 18. It's probably why he could win the Calder. I think Lane Hudson has a case there, but anyways, it doesn't even matter. He's going to have like a fantastic career. I don't even know if Crosby won the Calder, so does it really even matter? Like, I don't even think he cares. He just probably wants to make the playoffs again. So he just does this incredible like last little push or like off balance thing, or like you tap the guy's one side and then go to the other or whatever. Like it just kind of keeps guys guessing in their head, like, oh my god, this guy's closing in on me. And it's what I talked about on the forecheck, is you're going to turn over a lot more pucks if you like dump it over their head and you're right on them, especially in home games. You want to put the fear of God into teams that they don't have any time or space, and they're not going to get the puck out of their own end. You're just going to be cycling and grinding them down and getting more shots. So anyway, a guy like Besser, I'll talk about more players later, but Besser specifically is one of my faves of acquiring, as is like an Ekblad or a Luke Shen, but on the back end. But he had 145 shots last year, which is a down year for him. He's had 200 in the past. So if you see where I'm going here, it's like more shots is the equation for more goals, for more wins, more better goal differential, et cetera, et cetera. So the Sharks' goal differential, while it improved, it is still very bad this year. So Celly had 236 shots. That's very impressive. Like for a rookie, that's crazy. Like that's awesome. I thought he'd have around 200 or like maybe 170. So I was like blown away by that. And I want to see Smith double up his shot count. Like he's got his shooting percentage must have been good. I don't recall it right now, but like he scored those 2 goals in Chicago and then kinda had a bit of a lull, and then he took off, I think it was, like, Boston or something, and his shot is lethal and, like, so precise, and Celly too, like, his release is way like, Celly for me, his maturity and his body positioning and, like, the way he defends, like, he's kinda like a pit bull too, and, like, just like a rabid dog or something in the corners there with these little cross checks or whatever, like, it doesn't attempt to injure, but it's just like a balance. Like, I just love his competitiveness, and I've posted on, like, Teal Town and shout out those guys and JD's Locked On Sharks, and just how I really think that Sully could be captain material, the way he's dapping guys up after the game. He's like, you know, tapping guys, like waiting. He waits by the door. He's like one of the last to go off, or going to the goalie, like good game or whatever, and like hang in there during like breaks and intermissions and stuff. So I just think he's like, why not, if you're gonna give him the captain in like a year or something, why not just give it out of camp? Like if he earns it, obviously nothing's given, but if he comes in and shows like more maturity and growth and he's like acting like a leader right out of camp, if guys defer to him, that's what I always knew about Jumbo, like being the best, one of the best leaders ever, was guys would like, before answering a question, they would look to him like, is this okay? And then they'd answer and then look at his response. Oh yeah, yeah, Semp, like good one, right? Like, but like we'd get chewed out and all this sometimes, even him. And it's how you hang your head after a loss or whatever. And like Sully touched on this, that Joe is like one of the most positive guys. I know that he has things that he's pissed off about or whatever, even like probably pissed off at us guys for kind of ditching him, or maybe I don't know if he feels that way, but that's one of my regrets, is not keeping in touch over all these years. I kind of want to be, friends with him again. And we all had our own lives and our own jobs to do. And I always tried to go, like I went down to Chicago to see a game with some friends and would go to the, Buffalo games and stuff. I took my son to the game and he graciously got Carlson to sign a jersey, and Joe signed a puck for him, and, saw Wayne and Mary and stuff. It was great. So, I mean, I want to reconnect, but obviously life moves on. And all of us guys in St. Thomas, you know, we never lost faith in you as a player, as a leader and stuff. We just kind of like, my way is always just kind of like Homer recede into the bushes or whatever. It's just like I don't want to ever call somebody and want something from them or anything. It's just like quality time and hanging out, and I kind of miss all that stuff. And as you get older, my new thing lately is you know, just from a life philosophy, I heard somebody say it. I want to have like 80 bountiful summers. If you look at life in terms of like your whole thing, and like all those summers as a kid playing basketball and road hockey or whatever, you only get, probably like an average human gets 80 summers in your life. It gives you great perspective that you can get lost in the day to day, and the last 4 years, 5 years, whatever, have seemed like a time warp. And I've heard Pickles and other guys like Logan and stuff say it, that, like, if you see my beard, it's getting gray in it. And like, it just, where does the time go? So I have a lot of ambition, and I'm a tech guy. I'm working on a lot of projects and stats and all these things, and I don't know where any of them is going to go, or if anything will make money. Obviously, you don't want to do something as a hobby, if like you, or sorry, I should say that you can't do something as a hobby. You got to make money off of something, right, to have a living and put a roof over your head and eat and all that kind of stuff, right? So obviously I'm trying to do that and convert a lot of my hobby into like a full-time thing. And everybody's facing that challenge with the digital economy, and less manufacturing and more service jobs and things. And how do you add up the wages? And I could go on forever about that crap. But back to the leadership thing. Joe was an incredible leader, and he was so positive all the time, even though, it just, and I remember, I hope you remember this, Jumbo, that when I went, I'll claim I'll claim the run in 2019. No, I'm just kidding. Was it 2018 against the Blues? Anyways, I remember saying, I hope you remember this, that you guys were in Buffalo and my son and I were there and you guys were down 2-0 in the third. And Buffalo was always so hard to beat at home, especially with Eichel and all those years. And Carter Hutt's always stood on his head against the Sharks for some reason. Um, anyways, I remember saying to you, it's kind of a moral victory that you guys came back, even though you lost in overtime. And he's like, yeah, and I know Joe in his soul, he's always that glass half full kind of guy. So for him to be like, yeah, and I guess the team, maybe took it as a moral victory and they went to Montreal and, apparently, like I heard this after the fact that, it was cool to meet Carl and that kind of, sealed some kind of bond between him and Joe. I'm sure they were already friends or whatever, but, I wonder if like that little moment, and I think life is about capturing these like little moments and these connections and bonds. Like we are human, and I don't want to tear up here a little bit, but, seeing Logan's thing was really emotional, but, um, anyways, that's what life is about. You probably get 80 summers, if you're lucky. And, it's the memories that you have and the time warp that you're in. It all goes so fast. And, me being the same age as Jumbo, obviously, we played hockey together as kids. It goes way too fast. And, that's all you want is like human bonds and positive energy to be around. And it's just too easy now to talk about politics and all this crap. And I find myself trying to distance myself a little bit from socials and just live in the real world. Like, don't live for attention or clicks or whatever. Live for the moment and the laughs. Like, I want to see funny things come up on my feed now and just laugh hysterically. I remember like Joe, like we'd always have these camping trips and all this stuff. And we just laugh like over video games or whatever, Sega, the old NHL games, or Monopoly or Risk or whatever, like Crokinole, like the, like the, anyways, that's what you want. And I'm so glad the Sharks are having fun and they're filming kind of their journey, and it's going to pay off in 3 to 4 years in my mind. This team is going to be, they're going to be there. So, anyways, I wanted to say, yeah, like just, I'll read some more notes. I kind of got all sentimental there, but, I want to see Smith double up his shots. So him and Celly just go at each other, working on your face-off draws. Be better than 50%. Excuse me. Nico Sturm was like 6 out of 10 draws he would win, like NHL leading. Like you want him for defensive zone draws or in the regular season. Like that could lead winning a draw, like we saw Vancouver with their puck possession with Quinn Hughes, skate in circles, and just, we got to do something about this regroup too. Like honestly, it's bogus. You can like leave the offensive zone and just, I don't know. I don't like it. Or maybe just go to 4-on-4 for the overtime and then a shootout, or 4-on-4 and then 3-on-3 for 5-and-5. I don't know. They just, and then maybe go to the Olympic scoring system or something. I don't know, like 3-2-1. It just, the shootout is awesome, but like really, it doesn't even count for stats or whatever. Maybe you can have ties, right? Like maybe you go 4-on-4 and then 3-on-3, and then it's a tie after 10 minutes. I don't know, something like that. Like the shootout is fun. I don't like anything major being decided on shootouts. It is kind of unfair for the goalies. It lets people promote, but like to me that was the exciting part about the All-Star game. Now with the Four Nations, like do we even need an All-Star game anymore? Because that was very much about the individual stuff, and you get a lot of that showmanship, I guess, in the shootout. So anyways, shots for, like, yeah, like let's double up 127 shots for Smitty to around 250 ish. And Eklund mentioned he wants to score more. I want to see, what did I say? Yeah, I want to see like 150 to 200 shots for him next year as well. So I did some numbers. Nathan McKinnon is leading the league this year with 320 shots, and Austin Matthews had 369 shots and an 18.5 roughly, or 18.5% shooting percentage. and with a down year, he was around 12% this year and other years, right? So those really elite scorers, they can go anywhere from 12% to 18% success rate with their shots, right? And that could be a difference of like 20 goals, roughly. So yeah, it's crazy, right? McKinnon, and I wonder if that's why there's less goals in the league this year. 50 less shots. He played 3 less games, 79 games. But anyway, now on to like the puck moving. I think Ferrari showed some brilliance near the trade deadline. I don't know if he thought he was going to get traded. I know I've advocated in the past, like, hey, if he wants to win, go to Toronto. He's a Toronto boy. But hey, I love having him. He's such a heart and soul kind of guy. He kind of fits with our timeline in that defense. 3 to 4 years, he's going to be around 30. That's like when guys round into their prime, like an Ekblad, hint, hint, and I think to me, it's like it's all about staggering your talent. Like Greer and team, they have to stagger their talent and do milestones and trade for players. And I think, unfortunately, that's probably why Zetts got traded. Is because he's a little bit older than the core, and they wanted guys to kind of be like at their peak prime in their competing years. So if anything, that makes sense. And maybe Zetts will come back and sign as like maybe he signs a huge deal in Ottawa. I don't know. But if he only signs like a bridge deal, maybe he comes back in 4 years or something, or in a couple years or whenever, back to the Sharks again. And anyways, I think I'll talk about Eki and stuff in a minute, but Mar showed some really offensive flashes of brilliance, and I'd love to see him work on that a little bit. Some of his shooting release stuff, and I love that his poise. He learned from Carlson and Bernsey, some of the greats in offensive defensemen. So how to just jump into the play, and Ruda was doing that. I loved that. Ruda was like acting like Carlson out there in the last couple of games of the year. I loved it. What was I gonna say? So yeah, like to me, we lost Jake Walman. We lost that smooth skating. Like I loved how, as a defenseman, you'll notice that I won't probably talk about goalies hardly at all in this because I wasn't a goalie. I don't know anything about goalies, but hopefully Askey is the future and he's a bona fide number one, like they say. I believe in the scouting and all that around him. I know that Ryan, what's his name? Oh my God, Ryan Miller. I know that he said he was like special as far as movement. So Ryan Miller is probably a Hall of Fame goalie, if not like one of the best American goalies ever. So if he says it, that's enough for me. So yeah, Jake Walman, losing him at the deadline was bigger than people think, because when you have that smooth puck skating defenseman, puck moving defenseman, then you get like, I loved how he would use the net as a shield. A guy chasing him, he would use the net and kind of cut around it and cut in front of his goalie, and he'd create space and separation for himself, like so smooth. He was a really big loss, and I hope we get somebody great for that first round pick. To me, yeah, he was very surprising. Just as I would say, Jack Thompson to me really surprised me. I think he was one of the most improved players, and I hope Zach Ostapchuk is one of the most improved year over year next year. I think he's got a big leap, or he'll probably have to simmer, I think, in the minors for a couple years and grow into his manly body and things like that. I'll talk about that in a minute, but anyways, like, what's the plan for Dickinson? So to send him back to the OHL to me would be bonkers. I think that, you have a guy in Sam Dickinson who I believe like he broke records on like scoring and offense. Like to me, he needs some more IQ points working with guys like Pickles and that, and working with like maybe Kegs, like being in the system and being around guys. I love the Will Smith development plan of development days. I think Dickinson could do that next year. You could play him half of the games, like every other game or every 2 out of 3 games or something, and give him time to sit in the press box, see the game from above, and watch what guys do. Because I did notice at the World Juniors, Sam Dickinson would kind of freeze up, and I thought that's what to me, the difference between him getting a chance in the NHL this year, being a very, very high draft pick. He has such a huge ceiling. He skates like the wind. He does skate like a Walman, or maybe even better. He does skate like a Heiskanen or whatever like that. You can't teach that. It's like Luca Cagnoni has that smooth skating ability as well. So for me, Kags, I was so happy to see him get a chance after the deadline. I would love to see him gain a little bit more weight, so he can kind of punish guys around the front of the net. I think he's getting pushed around a little bit in the NHL, but it's undeniable his offensive gift, that he will be eventually like a power play quarterback for this team. And that's why I lean towards Misa as well too, as I said. Um, because Patrick Kane, you tie the guy like that. Anyways, if the Sharks get first overall, I hope they take Misa. I know there's going to be a temptation to take Schaefer, but for me, it's like, because of the Sharks' positioning and situation, and they need offense. Like, I know Schaefer's like a 2-year project as well too. He's going to be like I said, these guys, even Porter Martone, they're going to take like a long time to develop and need to simmer in the AHL and go back. Like, if Martone probably will go back to the OHL next year. Maybe he'll go. Who knows? But it's like, yeah, these guys take time, and it'd be pretty rare to see like a Celebrini Smith type combo of these next wave. And even Smith went back to school for 1 year, right? To grow, gain a little bit more weight, work on his skating, and he took time in both leagues to escalate mid-season. I think he's kind of like the car that you warm up in the middle of the winter, Smitty, that once he gets warmed up, he's flying, and he's a little bit. So I think extra conditioning for him at the start of the year, like in September, I think is going to be huge, and a lot of reps, like right before camp, I think will be huge for Smith, to get on the ice a little bit earlier. So maybe his ramp up time is then, and then he just jumps into the first game like boom, like out of a cannon kind of thing. So that's what I would do for Dickinson. I would definitely bring him to the NHL, because the CHL rules, blah, you can't go, he's either got to go back, and he has nothing to prove, absolutely nothing. And you got to work on some of these good habits that he'll be prepared in like 3 to 4 years, when the team is like a playoff competitive team and you're making runs. It's that's the timing for him. So you got to get him the tough reps and the learning and the hockey IQ points, excuse me, right now. So that's the plan for him. And so from a puck possession, that's more in the offensive zone, right? Dump it in, have guys hammer. I put some names down. I really loved Grundy's game, fast skater. He would hammer guys. Klim Shady would pace guys against the boards. He's a big body. I heard somebody say he's not likely back. I really hope they bring him back. I know he didn't play a lot at the end of the year. I don't know. It's like, I think he's maybe even like simmer him in the AHL. I don't know. Like, some of these guys that will have, you got to look at from Greer's standpoint. It's like, you could give away a player that in like 3 to 4 years will be like into their man body, and if that means extra dev time. By the way, I saw Austin Watson. I think his name's Austin, but it's Watson. He was like unbelievable in the All-Star game, and I saw him against the Leafs, Detroit against the Leafs, and it's like, a guy like that, it reminds me of like a Sabern or Podorowski, or like a Carlson. And I think Podorowski and Carlson, maybe they don't have what it takes to make the NHL, but maybe they do. I don't think either of those guys are completely ready for the NHL. And it's just like a guy like that, like a Watson, who's gifted, like in the All-Star game, AHL All-Star game with Askey, I was watching for him. I just thought he jumped out at me as like, that guy's a player. Like, try to grab him. If the Red Wings don't like him, or like see him fit, like grab a guy like that. And like these heart and soul guys that, if they simmer in the minors and they get their chance, playoff kind of guys or whatever, that maybe they don't have the foot speed like a Goody or whatever, but the guy can like work inside a phone booth, and he's like a pit bull on the puck, and he's willing to drop the gloves and show leadership and those kind of things, right? So yeah, like Delandria as well. with him, I think he took way too many penalties, and I think this is a moral hazard for the Sharks as a whole. They wouldn't move their feet a lot, and they would do these lazy stick lifts. Like they would, and I'm a big fan of, like, obviously in beer league too, you can do this. You can play rope-a-dope. Maybe you can't do this in the NHL, but like go like do be like Willie Nylander. Like play at like 75, 80%, and maybe you take a little bit of edge off. You don't skate full speed to go and clobber a guy and maybe miss because you get there before him or whatever. Take a load off in like the first period, maybe towards like the first half of the game, and then step it into high gear when it matters in the third period. And I think, like, I don't even know if that's a thing, like the rope-a-dope is what I call it. It's like, honestly, just conserve your energy, because these guys, like, if you go full bat out of heck in the first, part of the game and you get a lead or whatever. And I think the Sharks of past, like the Burnsies or whatever, that guy's like a monster, like a gym monster. And I'd love to see him come back too. I'll talk about a couple names, just like wishful thinking and speculation, but um, I'd love to see Burnsy do one final year with the Sharks, kind of like Patty did. But anyhow, like when you have a team like Evander Kane, he's maybe, like, some people are polarized on him, but that guy in front of the net, the inside of the ice, a guy like him, or like a Sam Bennett or whatever, these guys that are willing, like even Marchand, the Rat himself, like him and Bennett, he, like, I think he called him a douchebag or something, or like, I don't know. It's hilarious. Those guys, just being on the same team, is like just crazy how Boston just cratered. They sold off the whole farm, and hey, like, go for McAvoy, or probably Pasta is like impossible, or Swayman's impossible. But yeah, like if they can get McAvoy somehow and tear him out of Boston, like if they're tearing it down to the studs, then just be a vulture on some of these teams that are giving up, like Nashville or whatever. Grab some wingers from these guys. Anyway, I talked a bit about the staggering of guys, bringing guys in, and Delandria, like, I just I think overall, he's a great player. He's a heart and soul kind of guy too, but I want to see him go in and, instead of these stick infractions or whatever, it's like I want to see more double teams of the Sharks. Like bring two guys in, or one guy puck supporting, like the F1 F2. It's like they a lot of times this year the Sharks would kind of like fight in their own end just to get it out, and then they would just hit the red line, dump and chase, right? Or dump and then just go and change, right? And then you have no guys like supporting the puck, right? So to me, it's like the most important thing, that if you're going to be a dump and chase team like the Leafs and Berube style, you got to do it at the start of your shift, and then if you're going to go off and change and you're just going to dump it into their end and give them possession back, why not just do the regroup? Like fire it back to one of your defensemen, go off, the next group comes in, and then you break out as a group, right? So I'm very I saw so many passes of the Sharks, cross ice passes. Like, I know Celly and Smitty love each other like stepbrothers, and that's amazing. I love that. I think if anything, they helped each other get through this year. It's hard to break in the NHL. I've talked about that in the past, like guys like Nyes or whatever, playing like an actual pro, an 82 game season. RIP Mario's season with the broken foot. Rest up, buddy. You'll get 82 next year. But anyways, what the heck was I talking about? It's just frig. Anyway, let me just move on. It's just, to me, when you're in your home barn, you can do a little bit of the rope-a-dope, but like at the start of your shift, just dump it in, hammer guys, put the fear of God into them. If you're at the end of your shift, do a regroup, throw it back to your defense. They can pass between each other while you guys do a full-scale line change, and then off you go, right? The puck possession was atrocious this year with the Sharks, and the cross ice pass, that's what I was talking about before. My brain goes everywhere, but it's just like, I don't love those passes. I mean, if a guy's on a clean break, Carlson was amazing at that, picking a guy, like, air mailing it. Lane Hudson did that once this year too. It's like the ooh ah play of like hitting a guy while in stride. Like he would do that to Logan Couture. Like a guy like ask Couture, Captain Clutch, how do you find a moment to break out and get open at the other blue line for like a huge end-to-end pass. Like a guy like Dickinson can do that, or even jump in the play like Carlson. So I think he's kind of an X factor for next year for me. If he can make the team out of camp, I would love that. I don't he can't play in the OHL, so they just gotta find a way to make a spot for him. And I think Cags simmer him one more year. Yeah, and like I talked about the fighting and stuff. Ostapchuk, go eat a lot of rice and chicken and beef and eggs and pasta, and just bulk up over the summer, 15, 20 pounds. Work out a lot and do a lot of MMA training, fights. I'm sure, like, I don't know where he's from, but in your hometown, if there's guys working out, if there's an enforcer there, maybe he calls Tom Wilson in the off season. I'm kidding. Yeah, that was hard to watch. It's like a grown man beating up a school kid. No, with all due respect, no offense. Just Tom Wilson's like a maniac. And you'll grow, like, I believe truly in Ostapchuk. He's a great kid. And I think to get that edge and confidence, knowing that you can fight, and like an Adam Lowry, like heart and soul kind of guy. Anyways, yeah. So what do the Sharks do? I'm running pretty. This is like the longest cast I've ever recorded, but anyway, I'll go through it quick. Center ice. I would. I think. Do you put Smith on the wing again next year? Probably for one more year. Then they can grab another centerman for like a 1 or 2 year deal. I love the idea of like Duchesne. I think he really likes the Habs. So I don't know if you get him to sign. Maybe the ship has sailed for Granny. Depending on what they do in the playoffs, do they re-sign him? He, like I said, he's a pit bull out there, puck retrievals. He played amazing in Four Nations, so I imagine Dallas is going to keep him. But like, what if Cease, comes back to San Jose? Like that right shot defenseman, I think Ruta's probably moving on. And depending on who they get, right? Like if they get Ekblad or Pionk or somebody, potentially, on the back end, you got that right side. You got a lot of guys on the left side, Muck and Pickles, and like, wouldn't it be cool if Burnsy, like, I don't know if Carolina wants him for one more year, but if Burnsy came back and played with Pickles on the third line next year, that'd be amazing. That'd be a really stellar third line, on defense, and, give Mario, and, Ekblad or Pionk or somebody, maybe, like the top line minutes. And then, you got room for Dickinson and somebody else like Muck, probably, right? Like on the second pairing. So, let Kag simmer, let all these, young guys, like before seeing this season, I was very pro, like, yeah, like let's rush Musty into the league. Let's rush Cherney and like all these guys. I'm just like, you know what? Like I talked about staggering your players, and like the job of a manager is managing your salary cap and your future. And I think all those guys like Haltonen, they all have really big potential. And I think they need to get veterans like wingers like Besser or whoever, who's other wingers like Tarasenko. We were close with him a couple years ago. Could they snag a guy like that? Andrei Kuzmenko, like he's kind of fun. He fits the vibe of the Sharks. Like he's a little bit, not like a clown, as I mentioned before, but like, he's a fun guy and he likes to score. Good talent, good hands. Yeah, so like, and obviously like a Marner or something, like 32 teams are going to want him. So like if he wants to forego that 8th year and try something new, depending on what happens to their team, or, just his feeling, moving forward, his position with the team, the hierarchy or whatever, depending on what happens in the playoffs, I think, like he'll have 32 teams after. He'd be like the, the mega blockbuster signing that the Sharks, it'd turn their franchise around, probably like a guy like that, or even, like a John Tavares, like the Prime Plus guys, I had him for like a centerman, like Duchesne or Tavares, maybe as like a centerman to fill the gap. at 2C or Wenberg or like 2 or 3C. They could switch with Wenberg or just line combinations, how the guys are doing or whatever, situational game, depending on if they want to be more defensive against a team and matchups, whatever. Anyways, having guys like that, Duchesne or Tavares would be huge to like keep Smith on the wing, keep progressing him forward, and then probably the year after Smith's ready to be centering a line of, couple of top wingers. So like Celly. Anyways, I think that is everything. Yeah, like could we get Tarasenko? He's like he was with the Blues. He went with the Sens and we were close to grabbing him. But maybe he takes like a 2-year deal or some like Besser. It's hard to say. Like, oh yeah, Taylor Hall too. Like guys like that. Like different guys, different situations, right? Like these prime plus guys, they're probably going to want to do the till the end of their career. They like, Toffoli in that. Like I don't know if he's prime plus, but guys who are 30 are rounding out into their prime and above, and they probably want security. They've got family, they got young kids at home, whatever. Give them a lifestyle and a foundation underneath them and a hope to win, like Taylor Hall specifically. Depending on, like, now that Rantanen's gone out of Carolina, I could see Taylor Hall probably re-signing but you never know, right? Like if guys like that come available, like an MVP guy, snatch them up. And I would say Toffoli's played 1 year out of his 4-year deal. What I would love to see is either a 2-year deal or a 4-year deal with any wingers coming in, or like a Taylor Hall or Besser. They might want the full 7, and I'd be fine with those two guys specifically, ending their careers in San Jose. But I'd say for like Kuzmenko or Tarasenko or some of these guys, like Patrick Kane would probably never come because he's like bitter rivals with the Sharks, and I think he likes the East Coast better. The bi-coastal thing, East Coast, West Coast, what's up? But anyways, I would say like any guy like that, probably do a 2-year with them. And what happens with Eki, right? Like I think they could bridge him. But I think honestly, he's like if you want all his prime years, just lock him up for numerology says 72 mil. That's a very reasonable number with the cap going up. I know it's 9 million and people will be like, oh, that's more than Couture or more than Hurdle or whatever. But I believe that Eki has a good workout. And I wanted to say the quads, like Zetts is an absolute monster in the gym as well too, in his quad strength. I wanted to say, like I had pointed that out with the puck possession, is Nathan McKinnon, Crosby. You look at those guys' quads and they're monster, right? Like that's the true power forward definition is the size of your quads. And Zetts was doing deadlifts like insane, for the back and the quads and stuff like that. So I'd say Eki, he'd mega tips on, try to gain 10 pounds of muscle this summer, or maybe 5 pounds of muscle in your legs. And, I think he was a little bit off balance after that trade. It looked like to me he was knocked off the puck more, and he looked a little more stable in the first, before the trade deadline. And obviously, like that can take a toll mentally. And, I'm not saying he checked out by any means, but he looked a lot stronger on the puck, I'd say, before the trade deadline. And I think Zetts has that was a huge part of it, right? And to me, just the final thing, like, I think it's kind of a mystery of like the Zetts trade. I like Zach Ostapchuk. I'm going to give him, I think he could be that Adam Lowry kind of guy. I believe in him if he does the work and he does the MMA and the boxing for his confidence, because he did lack confidence. He would kind of throw the puck early. He started moving his feet more. It's kind of like the Zetterlund thing. You're like lost in this new environment. You want to know where you fit in, your identity, as Wenberg talked about, right? So I believe, and I commented on a couple forums and YouTube videos, that I think the Sharks' priority needed to be signing Eklund before Zetterlund. And like, I'm literally just speculating. I have no idea. But if Zetterlund wanted a long-term deal, or potentially a deal that would make Eklund want to sign for even more, or not fit him in the rankings properly, if like they figure, hey, we've got these guys coming in this stream, like I want to say the Sharks GM right now is and team is incredible with their contracts, how they've miraculously rebuilt. And and Carl, that's another guy who, hey, if Bernsey comes back for 1 year, get the Wookiee in there with Pickles, be a bubble team, be kind of a fun team, get some solid veteran presence back on the defense. Maybe in 2 years, we call up Carlson and be like, hey, man, you played with Sid and Malkin and Letang. We know you're the top dog. Bernsey had moved on. It depends on the growth of like Cags and Dickinson and all that. But if Carlson, depending on who we have, if we get Ekblad or whatever, maybe he's the top dog. But, it's like there could be room for Carlson to come in the last couple of years if we're competitive and see that journey through, because I feel like the St. Louis year, we beat them going to the cup, and then they beat us winning the cup. So faced Pittsburgh, of course, of all teams, right? And Sid, you lose against Sid, it's like, yeah, it's okay. I mean, they made it. So what a golden era team. Congratulations to Logan Couture and that glorious golden era of like 15 years of playoffs. I'm excited for like 3 to 4 years from now of being in the mix and one of the names. And hopefully next year, my goal, if I was in Mike Greer's shoes, is to be a bubble team like the Habs. And we're drafting as well, as good as the Habs as well too. So I think we can look at their team as kind of like a sister team. And the Dangle guys too coming down. It was like, I don't know if they're treating San Jose as like a sister team. I know I'm kind of like a fair weather Leafs. Go Leafs, go! Leafs are going to win the cup this year, so I'll just throw that out there. I don't know. I have a feeling, because I think everybody's moved on from them, and they got the Berube effect. They got solid defensemen. They got 2 great goalies. Watch out for the Leafs. I think people are sleeping on the Leafs. Anyway, I sound like a homer. I am from Ontario, so obviously they're one of, like, it's them or the Sens or the Habs is like the default teams, or the Bruins. Those are huge Ontario-based teams. So yeah, it was cool seeing Dangle and them down in San Jose. And go Leafs, go! And let's go for the draft and an awesome offseason for the Sharks. Peace.